At this year's Farm Fest, Governor Mark Dayton announced that the state will mandate a 20% biodiesel blend beginning in May of next year, building on a history of biodiesel implementation that began at 2% just over a decade ago. Joining me in the studio to talk about this and other agricultural issues is the Commissioner of Agriculture, David Frederickson. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So about the biodiesel mandate, what is the significance of 20%?
Well, it's interesting that we're going to, you indicated earlier that governor will mandate it. The governor is not mandating it. Actually, the law mandates it. The law was put in place in a prior administration, and we're just basically following the law. It requires that there are about 4 provisions that have to be met, exactly 4 provisions, and the Department of Commerce, the Commissioner of the Department of Commerce, the Commissioner of the Department of PCA, Pollution Control Agency, and the Commissioner of Agriculture must examine the industry to see if the 4 conditions are met. And if they are, we will then just follow the law, and the law clearly states that you will go to B20 in 2018. And so that's what we're doing. We've examined the 4 issues and clearly feel that those issues are resolved, and that means, is there an adequate supply? Has there been a testing regimen that has been in place to determine if this can happen? And yes, there has. Is the ability to blend in place? And will 50 to 75% of the fuel be blended with Minnesota product? And so those conditions have been met, and we're moving forward. There's some argument on the part of some of the blenders that they don't have the blending capacity, but we examined that very carefully and determined that there is adequate blending capacity. So we're excited about seeing it move forward. It means a lot to agriculture particularly. It means a lot to clean air in Minnesota.
One of Governor Dayton's cornerstones is water quality. What is your department doing to aid in improved water quality in the state?
Well, we're doing a variety of things. We're responsible for groundwater, and we have developed, based on, again, a 30-year-old or 28-year-old statute, and I have to admit that I was part of the Minnesota Senate at that time. At that time, Senator Steve Morris was the primary author of the Groundwater Protection Act, and it called on the Department of Agriculture to promulgate rules to manage nitrates and nitrate contamination in well water across the state. So we've developed a protocol on well testing. We hope to have about 70,000 wells tested in vulnerable areas of Minnesota, and obviously the karst would be considered a vulnerable area. The central sands particularly, and some of the heavily farmed areas across Minnesota. And so we're concentrating our well testing on those areas right now. We have about 20,000 samples pulled, and of the 20,000, about 9.6% indicate that we have nitrates above the drinking water standard, which would be 10 parts per million. And so we're seeing not just 11 parts, but 20, 30, and 40 parts per million, which is a problem.
And these nitrates are from the fertilizers that are getting into the groundwater?
They could be from a lot of things. It could be from, lightning storms. It could be from just naturally occurring. But these areas are heavily farmed, and a significant amount of nitrogen is applied, whether in the form of urea or whether it's in the form of anhydrous ammonia. And so we're asking farmers to look carefully at fall application because nitrogen will be utilized when there's a growing plant, but when there's not a growing plant, it can leach away, and that's what causes problems in wells. So we're developing a rule. We're going through the promulgating process. We're holding hearings all across Minnesota. We have partnered with the governor on his 25 by 25 meetings, and we'll be holding meetings in conjunction with those with farmers to talk about very specifically about the nitrogen fertilizer management plan. They're not terribly comfortable with it, and those that are on the other side of the issue are not terribly comfortable with our approach. They feel it should be much more strict. And so the old adage is, if you got both sides angry, maybe you're hitting the sweet spot. So we hope to hit the sweet spot by the end of it.
So how is the agricultural economy in Minnesota faring right now?
Well, I would have to say not the best. I went through the 80s as a farmer in western Minnesota, and it was a real struggle. And I fear that we could be approaching some of those same concerns that we dealt with in the 1980s, and that is low commodity prices.
High land prices?
Well, not so much in those years,
okay.
But now we also have the low land prices generally parallel with low commodity prices. But today we have low commodity prices because we have excess. And we have high land prices. So it's really, really difficult to square or to cash flow, in this case, a farming operation. If you're a young person wanting to come back to the farm, diversification is a key for them. Lots of interest in organic agriculture. There's a lot of interest in diversifying. We have industrial hemp in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. You know, soybeans in the 50s was considered a new crop. And so we
not
have...
anymore.
Not anymore. Soybeans is an old crop and a standby and something you can rely on. But commodity prices are low. West central Minnesota today about $2.66 a bushel for corn. An average acre out there probably will run between $5,000 and $7,000, maybe more depending upon location and how it ties into some other piece of property. But a huge investment today for young people to come back. Virtually impossible to farm in a traditional base without some kind of help from mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, brothers, sisters, bank, anyone else. So, and the state of Minnesota. We have a program called the Rural Finance Authority, and we assist in helping bridge finance so folks can actually make it work. And so I encourage people, if they're listening, to look at our website. There are all kinds of opportunities on our website that we can assistance that we can provide.
Commissioner Frederickson, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, happy to be here anytime.